Domain 1 deals with a teacher's planning and preparation ability. How well do I, as a teacher, know the content I will be teaching my students? Am I up to date with the latest researched methods for teaching that content? Have I taken the time to observe each student's varied approaches to learning and included those approaches in my lesson plans? Are my instructional goals suitable for my students? Are they clear? What about my instruction? Is it coherent? And finally, am I using the results of my students' assessments to plan for future lessons? Of the 4 domains, Domain 1, planning and preparation, was probably the easiest one for me to grasp. I am a planner by nature. I like to have things well organized and thought through. My family and I have done a number of backpacking and camping trips, and guess who gets to plan for all of those? I don't want to have hiked 6 hours out into the wilderness only to find out that we have forgotten some essential item. And I find that's true also with my teaching. I spend a lot of time thinking through what I need to teach and how I'm going to go about teaching it in a way that is interesting and yet effective for my students. I normally begin with what I need to teach. What are the Common Core standards that I need to cover in this trimester? What curriculum or program does my principal want me to cover? From there, I tend to work backwards. I think, well, here's the objective, here's what I want my students to learn, but how am I going to know that they have learned it? What kind of assessment am I going to give them at the end that will prove to me that they have learned those objectives? Once I've figured out the assessment, I then ask myself, what steps do my students need to take to go from that objective all the way to the assessment? And once I've figured out the steps, then comes the best part. How can I teach this information in the most interesting and yet the most effective way by incorporating those different learning approaches of my students? Throughout this wiki portfolio, you can view a number of different lessons and unit plans that I have created through my NSC coursework and student teaching experience. These plans will give a pretty good idea of the planning and preparation I put into my teaching, and I hope you'll take the time to read through a few. I'd like to end with this section with a quote from Benjamin Franklin. Mr. Franklin said, "By failing to prepare, you are preparing to fail." And I certainly want to be well prepared.